Hey, what's up? This week we are coming in heavy with the metaphors and we are going to do 4 secret ingredients to spice up your sales process and boost your conversion rates. Now, imagine your sales process as a 4 course meal, right? Each course or each piece of the process represents a critical part of the entire experience, right? So if you miss one of them here or one of them there, it's going to screw up the experience. You are not going to get the Michelin star or the sale. Okay. Now, this week, I'm going to dive into what the 4 courses are to help make your sales process more tantalizing than a chocolate souffle. All right. So we are going to start where a 4 course meal would start, the appetizer, of course. And in a sales process, that's when people are booking a call with you. That's the first impression that they're going to have with you, the process that they go through to get on a call with you or a salesperson. And as they say, you don't get another chance to make a first impression. All right. So this process, as simple as it is, as it's overlooked all the time, but the process of what they go through, how they book a call with you or your salesperson has to be simple. It has to be frictionless and it has to be intentional. You want them to get off on a good start, right? Just like you would a meal. Okay. So it sounds really obvious, but it's worth saying this, like just from a clarity standpoint, the easier that you make it to book a call with you or a salesperson, the more calls you are going to get booked, right? Nobody likes an overly complicated appetizer. Nobody likes a pain in the ass process to get on somebody's calendar and buy their stuff. Nobody wants to go through a high friction process to give you their money. Now, to make it really easy, I recommend just using like an automated calendar, something from Acuity or Calendly or any of the providers out there. All of them work perfectly fine, but you want to use a calendar on a web page that lets people book times really easily, right? Because that allows you to capture the demand and capture the interest that you've created while they're actively looking. Something in your marketing, maybe a podcast that you did, maybe a social media post, maybe a blog, maybe a TV ad, whatever it is, something managed to get them to your page. You want to allow them to book while they can, while you have that demand. Because when people leave, they get carried away by workhorses. They get carried away by distractions. They go back into doing whatever it was they were doing, and they may forget. So make it easy, use a calendar, let them book in. That process also allows you to like avoid like what's a really frustrating back and forth. Like, hey, are you available at 5? No, I'm not good at 5. How about Tuesday at 4? No, I'm not going to go to 4. Nobody wants to go through that bullshit, right? Put a calendar up, give people the opportunity to book into you while they have some degree of interest and some degree of intent. Now, I've got 2 tips when it comes to the automated calendars. One is be really mindful about the availability that you're offering. All right. You want to strike a balance between exclusivity and accessibility, meaning you want to make sure that you're available. Like you don't want somebody to look at the calendar and go, okay, they don't have availability for 3 weeks. All right. Well, okay, I'll book it now. 3 weeks from now, I may have found another provider. I may have lost interest. I may have forgotten about it. I may not show up. There's a lot that goes into it. You want to be accessible, but you also want to be a little exclusive. You don't want it to look like, you don't want people to look on the calendar tomorrow and go, okay, so from 8 to 5 availability, 8 to 5 availability. Hell, he's available on Sunday, 8 to 5. Like you don't want that either. So you want to strike a balance between exclusivity and accessibility. Now, the clarity of your offer, like how well defined your offer is and your services are, how qualified your prospects tend to be, and how you go about generating leads all determine the right balance between exclusivity and accessibility. Or if you're reaching out to a cold audience, it's going to have slightly different parameters than if you're reaching out to if you have a warm audience that reaches out to you. If your marketing is like really delivering highly qualified prospects, like you may want to get them on a call right away. Okay. You may want them to see availability later today or tomorrow because you know that your marketing tends to deliver people that are qualified, good fits, things like that. And so you don't want to necessarily offer 4 weeks out for something like that. On cold audiences, you may actually want to put 2 days of space in, 3 days of space in, 24 hours, whatever it is, to feed them content between the time that they book and the time that they actually talk to you. You may want to send them content and things to explore so that they can get accustomed to you, get acclimated to your offer, get acclimated to your services, your brand, even kind of identify whether they're a good fit or not, put them a drip sequence. So sometimes you may actually want to put it out a couple of days before you offer that. So again, how you're generating demand, how you're generating leads influences that, but you want to be intentional about the availability that you're offering. Okay. The second thing is you want to add some questions in there. When people are booking a call, you don't want to get a call with a stranger. Even if your marketing usually delivers relatively warm leads, you don't want to get on a call with a stranger. You want to have some understanding of who they are, what their challenges are, what led them to reach out, how qualified they might be. So add a series of questions. It can be a few questions. It depends on what your offer is, who your audience is, but you want those questions to essentially help you determine whether this prospect is going to be a good fit or not going to be a good fit before you talk. And if possible, even do some preparation. If you can look at that and say, okay, this person based on what they said their challenges are and what they've tried to do to solve this, you can get some things ready for your sales call prior to that. A lot of that, again, will depend on how you're generating leads, your level of interest, the level of intent that they have when they book a call. You don't want to add too much friction. You want to add a 27-page or 27 question survey when people are trying to book a call, especially if you're going to like cold audiences. So there's some different variables in there, but you want to add some questions to that automated calendar that's going to help you determine, is this a good fit? And can I get ahead of this and prepare and make this the best use of both of our time? It'll help you avoid wasting your time, and it'll help them avoid wasting their time if they're not a good fit. Okay. Now that's the appetizer. That's the first course. Second course is the soup, right? At least I think. And in the sales process, this is basically the pre-call sequence. Once somebody has booked a call with you, what is the process that happens between that point and the point that they actually get on a call with you or a salesperson? In a good pre-call sequence, it's going to warm your prospects up and it's going to get them ready for the main course. That might have been a stretch on the metaphors, possibly. Sorry for that. Anyway, your prospects they're probably busy, right? So if you want more people to show up to your calls, period, like the show rates on some organizations I look at are just abysmal. And as hard as you're working to get people to book calls, when half of them or 40% of them aren't showing up to your calls, you're just leaking opportunities. Okay. So if you want more people to show up to your calls, it helps to have a series of reminders, a series of messages and things prior to that call. You can use text, you can use email. But I like to do at least one email 24 hours before, one text message 1 hour before. And then depending on how many days out they're booking, maybe there's an email or two prior to that as well. Okay. But you want to make sure that there's some reminders that are going to help get them there, but don't overdo it. Like the last thing you want to do is get on the phone or Zoom call with somebody that's annoyed, right? They've been hit with 17 text messages. They've been hit with 17 emails and they're like, all right, that's not the mindset that you want somebody coming to your call with, but you do want them to come to the call. So a reasonable number of reminders, and use two channels, use the text and use the email. Now, most importantly, you want to serve them up some of your best content in that sequence, right? You want to demonstrate your expertise before you get on the call. All right. Cause that's going to increase their desire to actually talk to you. Right. And it's going to increase your positioning, the perceived authority that you have on that sales call. So I'm looking for what are the most powerful pieces of content that you've created. Do you have some guides that will hit on the pain points and the problems that they're facing? Do you have some other authority builders or things that help build your credibility? Really good speeches that you've given. In those reminders, what I like to do is just make sure that you're strategically placing content that they consume before they get on the call with you, right? In those reminders and in those communications, two key ingredients that I would be looking for. One is social proof. Like, do you have testimonials? Do you have snapshots of wins? Do you have something that you can show them, maybe case studies that help prove that you can help get them results or that your company can help get them results? All right. The second thing is content that demonstrates your expertise and specifically a lot of the problems and the pains that your best clients are experiencing, right? You want to get ahead of that and show that in some of that content. That's going to ensure that not only people show up, but that they show up warmed up, right? And you as a salesperson have the maximum amount of authority, credibility, and trust that you can going into that call. All right. Now, the third course, the main course. All right. Now we've arrived here. We've got the appetizer, we've got the soup, we've got the main course in the sales process. This is the sales call, right? This is the most important feature in your process. And this is where the magic really happens. That what you've done up to now helps in terms of positioning, but this is where rubber meets the road, right? So you can't just wing these calls. Any sales call, I do not care how complex or how simple it is. There should be a talk track. There should be a framework. Like you wouldn't wing a gourmet dinner like it was a late night cooking experiment, right? Your sales call should be thought out and you should have a recipe for success. Okay. Now you want to start your sales call by building the right kind of rapport. And when I say the right kind, what I don't mean is getting super chummy, trying to be somebody's best friend, talking for 17 minutes about the local football team or the local weather. Like the right kind of rapport when it comes to selling expertise or solving a solution that solves any kind of complicated problem. The right kind of rapport builds trust from your prospect that you are the person that can help them solve the problem. That is what rapport means. Rapport is not about friendliness. Rapport is about trust. It's about trusting that you care and trusting that you're capable. Okay. Then you built rapport, then diagnose where they're at today and identify where they want to be tomorrow. Understand that your job is to get them from here to there, but you wouldn't trust a mechanic that gave you a recommendation or an invoice to do some work if they never even popped the hood. That's what you've got to do that on your sales call. You've got to do a discovery. You've got to do a diagnosis. It helps build the authority of your recommendation, which is for your product or your service. So you diagnose. If you can help fix the problem, or if you can help them solve the problem that they have, and you can help them get from point A to point B after you've done that diagnosis, then and only then do you offer up your services. Do you offer up your solution? Do you start talking about your company? Do you offer a prescription, right? Now, the framework that I usually follow on consultative sales calls is number one, prepare for the call. Before you get to the call, it sounds dumb, but at the end of the day, I cannot tell you how many salespeople, pros and rookies, they get to a call, they haven't done any preparation. Like they're not even in the right mindset. They haven't looked at the questions in the questionnaire. They haven't done anything. So prepare. That's number one. If this was helpful, go ahead and drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. I'd love to continue sharing sales tips and business building tips to help you build a scalable service business. Thanks. Number two is your opening. Your opening consists of building rapport, setting the agenda for the call, and a credibility builder. In other words, a question like, so what led you to reach out? What led you to take time from your busy schedule to reach out to me? Something, and ask them to talk to you or tell you about why they actually reached out. Third is diagnose. You want to diagnose the current state, you want to diagnose the future state, and you want to understand and stretch the gap that's in between that, right? And then the fourth thing is you're going to offer your prescription to like the prescription after you've done that diagnosis. Then you're going to close, then you're going to handle objections. Again, prepare, opening, diagnosis, prescription, close, objections, right? Now, one tip on this. You want to tailor your prescription to the diagnosis. If you're going through the time to do discovery, to ask questions, to understand where they're at and understand where they want to be, there's no sense in doing all that if the way that you pitch your services is always the same. You want to tailor your prescription to your diagnosis. You want to tailor your solution to the discovery that you did. You want to sell to the pain points that they express. You want to sell to the problems that they talk about. You want to sell to the frustrations and the mistakes that they're making. Even if it is the same service that you always deliver, you want to tailor the way that you present that in a way that is personalized to them. Now, lastly, of course, it's the dessert. Okay. What would a great main course be without dessert? In the sales process, this is basically your follow-up. All right. And you're not going to, if this were a 4-course meal, you're not going to follow up the main course with some deflated souffle, right? Like you're not going to follow up a really great sales call with half-assed follow-up, or even worse, like not doing it. Okay. Fortune is in the follow-up. And that's, well, if it's done consistently, if it's executed really well. Okay. Now, to improve the execution and the consistency, I like to leverage email sequences. I like to leverage templates. I like to leverage something that I call BAM FAM, which is book a meeting from a meeting. In other words, if I have somebody on a call and they say, well, okay, let me go through this. Let's follow up next week. Cool. Let's lock that in. Bam. Book a meeting from a meeting. And that is, it's the process of booking that call when they say they want to follow up at X date. All right, let's lock it in. It's a good opportunity to actually test their commitment level and gauge their reaction. Also to get that locked in, which helps improve your execution and the follow-up on their end. Okay. The templates that I mentioned, basically, have some, not that you can't personalize some of this to a degree, but you want something that is a good summary that reinforces your value proposition, some additional social proof if you have it in a good follow-up template, and you want some space to personalize the message. Okay. Because if you're selling complex services of any kind, there's always going to be some personalization of what you send. The template helps you minimize the stuff that you're repeating all the time. Also helps make sure that you get the key ingredients into that template, but you want some room in there to personalize things as best you can based on the conversation that you had. And then I also like to leverage email sequences. Okay. Or like basically a series of emails that with the click of a button in a CRM, you can say, drop them in the follow-up sequence. And what they're going to get are pre-written messages that are highlighting maybe some more social proof, highlighting problems, pains, mistakes that they're making. Essentially, it's a really good tool to use when your other follow-up efforts aren't necessarily working. So if you haven't heard from somebody in a while, or they said they were going to follow up at a certain time, or they said they were going to take an action and they didn't. Cool. Like you do what you can to keep that going. And then when they can't, you drop that in an email sequence and you're trying to revive that opportunity. So there you have it. We've got the appetizer. We've got the soup. We've got the main course. We've got the dessert. We've got 4 key ingredients to your sales process to improve conversion and improve your sales process and land more clients. If this was helpful, go ahead and drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. I'd love to continue sharing sales tips and business building tips to help you build a scalable service business. Thanks again. Thanks for watching. I really hope you got some value out of this. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button for me and subscribe to the channel for more of our content. And if you want to find out a little bit more about me and how we can help you build your business and grow sales, feel free to check out rayjgreen.com, RAY, letter J, GREEN.com. Thanks again.